Rasheeda stepped into the courtroom ready to fight for her future, expecting the divorce hearing to finally close this painful chapter. She thought she could finally breathe. Then the doors opened. Jasmine walked in. Instantly, the room shifted. Every eye turned toward her, and Rasheeda froze. But Jasmine hadn't come just to watch. She held something in her hands, and when she revealed it in front of the judge, the courtroom fell silent. What she shared wasn't just surprising. It had the power to change everything about the divorce and brought up secrets Rasheeda had worked so hard to keep hidden. Rasheeda had believed this would be the day she finally ended her marriage with Kirk. All the papers were filed. The lawyers were ready, and she had prepared herself for whatever legal battles remained. She had endured humiliation, betrayal, scandals, and years of trying to salvage a marriage falling apart behind closed doors. But nothing could have prepared her for this moment. The courtroom wasn't empty. Alongside lawyers and reporters were familiar faces from Atlanta, some there to support Rasheeda, others just for the drama. She sat straight, composed, perfectly styled, but the tension in the air was thick. Her attorney leaned in and whispered, "Stay calm. We'll get through this." Rasheeda nodded, thinking Kirk was her only concern. She was wrong. The doors slammed open again, echoing through the room, and there she was, Jasmine. Whispers spread immediately. Even the court clerk paused mid-typing. Jasmine moved slowly, confidently, a clear sense of control in her steps. In her hand was a thick manila envelope. Rasheeda narrowed her eyes. "What is she doing here?" she muttered under her breath. Kirk's body tensed, and for the first time that morning, he wouldn't meet Rasheeda's gaze. The judge glanced up, recognizing the name. Jasmine had a long, messy history with both Kirk and Rasheeda. This wasn't random. She was connected to some of the most painful events in Rasheeda's marriage. Her arrival now wasn't a coincidence. The judge cleared his throat. "Ma'am, are you here as a witness or do you have business with this case?" Heels clicking against the floor, Jasmine stepped forward. "Your Honor, I have evidence. Mrs. Frost should see this before signing anything." Rasheeda sat frozen, gripping the table so tightly her knuckles turned white. The lawyer immediately rose. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular." But Jasmine ignored him, holding the envelope high. "This isn't gossip. It isn't rumors. It proves that Kirk hasn't been honest in these proceedings. Rasheeda deserves to know before the divorce is finalized." The judge nodded and motioned for her to come closer. Everyone leaned forward, eager to see what was inside. Rasheeda's mind raced. She had already been through so much. What could possibly be left? And yet a pit formed in her stomach. With Jasmine, nothing was ever small. The envelope was handed to the bailiff, then to the judge. He opened it, scanning the papers silently. His eyebrows shot up. "We'll need a short recess," he said, his voice serious. Rasheeda turned to her lawyer. "What is it? What did she bring?" Jasmine didn't sit quietly. She stood, smirk spreading across her face, and announced for all to hear, "It's about the money, Rasheeda. Not just his. Yours too." The courtroom erupted. People whispered frantically, forcing the judge to bang his gavel. Rasheeda's heart raced. "What money?" she thought. Kirk's face went pale, confirming her worst fears. This wasn't just divorce drama anymore. It was serious. The bailiff moved Jasmine to a side table while the judge called both legal teams forward. Papers shuffled, whispers passed back and forth, and Rasheeda couldn't look away from the envelope in front of the judge. Her lawyer returned, leaning in. "This changes everything. We need to speak privately, Rasheeda." Her pulse quickened. "How? What is it?" The lawyer glanced at Jasmine. "It's true. Kirk has been hiding assets, possibly moving money without telling the court." Rasheeda's stomach dropped. Hidden assets, secret transactions. This wasn't just messy divorce news. This was a legal nightmare. And Jasmine? She sat back, arms crossed, savoring every moment. The judge called a recess, and the room buzzed with speculation. Rasheeda clutched her bag, trying to process what had just unfolded. This was supposed to be about closing a chapter, moving on. Instead, everything was uncertain. And the worst part? Jasmine hadn't finished. She had more to reveal, and she would make sure Rasheeda heard every word. On the second day of Rasheeda and Kirk Frost's divorce, tension filled the courtroom. Just when the room seemed tense enough to cut with a knife, the doors creaked open again. Heads turned. Jasmine Washington, the woman who had shaken Rasheeda's marriage to its core, walked in as if she owned the place. Gasps spread. Even the court reporter paused mid-note. Rasheeda's eyes widened briefly. Then she composed herself, crossing her legs and staring straight ahead. Kirk froze. Every muscle stiffened. His jaw locked, hands clasped tightly, bracing for impact. This wasn't a random entrance. Jasmine's arrival was intentional. She walked deliberately down the aisle toward the front, heels clicking on the tile, her confidence almost unsettling. In her hands was a sleek black folder, guarded like treasure. The judge looked up, clearly annoyed. "Ma'am, are you here to observe or testify?" Jasmine smiled slyly. "Both, Your Honor." A ripple of murmurs passed through the courtroom. Rasheeda's lawyer immediately stood. "Your Honor, she is not listed as a witness today." Jasmine interrupted. "Maybe not on your list, but the truth doesn't wait for an invitation." Jasmine slid into a seat near the front, her eyes fixed on Kirk. Rasheeda's lawyer immediately spoke up. "We moved to exclude her," they said. But the judge, sensing something important was about to unfold, allowed Jasmine to stay until he could determine if her presence mattered. Just like that, she had positioned herself front and center for Rasheeda's divorce drama. Kirk kept glancing at her, clearly unsettled. Years ago, the affair with Jasmine had been the couple's most public scandal. Denials, eventual confirmations, and all the heartbreak had left scars that never fully healed. Now, Jasmine was back, right in the middle of a legal battle that could divide assets between Kirk and Rasheeda completely. As the testimony continued, Rasheeda's lawyer pressed questions about Kirk's financial behavior, accusing him of siphoning money from shared business accounts. Rasheeda responded calmly but firmly, maintaining her composure. Jasmine stood. "I have proof of that," she announced, loud enough to halt the proceedings. Rasheeda turned slowly, expression unreadable. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered under her breath. The judge motioned for Jasmine to come forward. She walked confidently to the witness stand, folder in hand, and swore to tell the truth. Then she opened it, pulling out papers, bank statements, wire transfers, and even photos. "These," she said, looking directly at Rasheeda, "are records of payments Kirk made to me over the past 2 years. Not child support, but through cash and business accounts. Some of it came from Frost Bro funds, money that should have been shared." The courtroom erupted. Kirk protested immediately. "She's lying. These are private matters, not relevant to this divorce." Jasmine didn't back down. "Private? You mean secret trips, gifts, hotel suites? Deleting messages didn't cover your tracks. You forgot I keep receipts." The judge tried to restore order, but the tension only grew. Rasheeda leaned forward, listening intently while her lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. Her gaze never left Jasmine. She wasn't even looking at Kirk anymore. "This isn't about embarrassing you," Jasmine said, voice almost sympathetic. "It's about the truth. Kirk has been living a double life for years. I'm tired of being blamed when he can't stay faithful or honest about money." The documents were admitted as evidence. Rasheeda's lawyer began reviewing them, shock slowly replacing skepticism. Some sums were enormous. Tens of thousands of dollars moved into unknown accounts. Kirk's defense tried to call them loans or private settlements to avoid media attention, but Jasmine wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone. "And this," she said, cueing an audio recording. The judge raised an eyebrow. "What is this, Ms. Washington?" "A conversation between Kirk and me 3 months ago," Jasmine replied. "He didn't know I was recording." The courtroom went silent as the recording played. Kirk's voice was clear. "Look, just hold this money until I get the paperwork done. Rasheeda doesn't need to know. If she finds out, it's over." The audio cut off. The air seemed to vanish. Rasheeda slowly turned toward Kirk, her face a mix of disbelief and fury. She shook her head, struggling to process what she had just heard. The judge called a short recess to review the new evidence. As the gavel struck, Rasheeda stood and walked out without looking back. Kirk tried to follow but was stopped by security. Jasmine remained seated, sipping water, like she was watching a show she had anticipated for years. Outside, the media swarmed. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Rasheeda's publicist worked furiously to shield her from the chaos. Jasmine, by contrast, strolled out calmly, smiling for the cameras. When a reporter asked why she came, she simply said, "Lies have an expiration date, and Kirk's were way past due." Within minutes, social media exploded. Clips of the courtroom, snippets of the recording, and side-by-side reactions of Rasheeda and Jasmine went viral. Fans were divided. Some praised Jasmine for telling the truth. Others accused her of using the court to settle personal scores. One thing was, the fragile trust between Rasheeda and Kirk was gone. With Jasmine now officially involved, the stakes had skyrocketed. When court resumed, Rasheeda returned with a steely determination. She avoided looking at Kirk entirely. Her lawyer filed a motion to freeze all joint accounts until the financial discrepancies were fully investigated. The judge approved, effectively locking down their shared funds. Kirk slumped in his chair, no longer defiant, just defeated. Jasmine sat perfectly composed, observing the fallout with quiet satisfaction. What began as a simple divorce hearing had become a full-blown financial and personal scandal. The courtroom was now a battlefield. Tension hung thick in the air. Rasheeda tried to maintain her composure, hands clasped, but her eyes revealed the storm inside. Kirk leaned back, his usual smug smirk intact, though his confidence was starting to crack. Jasmine wasn't finished. After dropping the first bombshell about Kirk's finances, the judge had allowed her to continue. Word had already spread beyond the courtroom. Crowds gathered outside, eager for any updates. Jasmine stood at the witness stand with a calculated poise, as if she had been preparing for this moment for months. "Your Honor," she began, "I know I'm not on today's witness list, but I have information that directly affects this case." She spoke directly to Kirk, locking eyes with him. For the first time since she had entered, he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Proceed, but keep it relevant to the matter at hand." Jasmine took a deep breath. "Kirk has been hiding not only assets," she said, "but also a relationship, one that overlaps with the timeline of his marriage to Rasheeda. And I'm not talking about years ago. I mean very recently." Gasps rippled through the small crowd. Rasheeda's face stayed calm, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of the table. Jasmine reached for a file she had brought, handing it to the court clerk, who passed it to the judge. Inside were photographs, screenshots, and receipts that told a damning story. One photo showed Kirk at a luxury vacation spot, taken just weeks earlier, with a woman who was clearly not Rasheeda. Another revealed large cash transfers from his business accounts to a personal account under the woman's name. Kirk tried to interrupt. "This is irrelevant. She's here to start drama, not present facts." The judge silenced him with a sharp look. "Mr. Frost, remain quiet while the witness speaks." Jasmine continued, her voice steady. "These aren't random payments. This woman was living in an apartment paid for by Kirk, with rent higher than most mortgages. The payments continued even after Rasheeda filed for divorce. The tension was suffocating. Rasheeda's lips trembled briefly, but she quickly straightened up. Kirk avoided her gaze entirely. Jasmine added, "And that's not all. I also have messages between Kirk and this woman, showing how he planned to hide these transactions from his wife's legal team. He knew this divorce was coming, and instead of being transparent, he prepared to cover his tracks." The judge flipped through the file, pausing on certain pages. Visibly, "These documents will be entered into evidence," he declared. Kirk's attorney scrambled to object, arguing about admissibility and authenticity. Jasmine shut him down immediately. "Every screenshot, transfer record, and photograph has been verified. If necessary, I can bring in the bank officials and the photographer who took these pictures." The courtroom fell silent, the kind of silence that hits when someone's carefully built defense is crumbling. Rasheeda finally spoke, her voice sharp and controlled. "So while I was at home holding our family together, you were funding someone else's life." She didn't wait for his reply. The words were a bitter confirmation of the suspicions she had carried for months. Kirk leaned forward, his arrogance fading. "It's not what it looks like," he muttered. Jasmine's cold gaze met his. "It is exactly what it looks like." Outside, the media frenzy was already in full swing. News outlets were reporting snippets of the story, and social media exploded with clips from the courtroom, including the audio recording. Rasheeda's divorce hearing was trending within the hour. Fans debated fiercely. Some praised Jasmine for exposing the truth, while others questioned her motives. One thing was undeniable. Whatever trust remained between Rasheeda and Kirk was gone. With Jasmine now involved, the stakes had skyrocketed. Back inside, the judge addressed Kirk. "These revelations are highly relevant. They affect your financial dealings and your credibility. This will influence how we proceed with the case." Kirk's lawyer asked for a recess, clearly needing time to regroup, but the damage was done. Rasheeda sat quietly, staring at the table, processing the magnitude of what had been revealed. When the recess was granted, she stood, gathered her papers, and walked straight out without looking at him. Cameras flashed, but she held her head high, refusing to show any breakdown. Jasmine followed soon after, calmly walking through the crowd as phones captured her every move. Some whispered thanks, others side-eyed her, but she moved with the same composed pace as when she entered. A reporter asked, "Jasmine, why did you come today?" She paused, then said, "Because the truth matters, and Rasheeda deserves to know exactly who she's been dealing with all these years." Her words spread online instantly. Clips went viral on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, sparking heated debate. Inside, Kirk sat alone for a moment before his attorney returned. His face showed frustration, panic, and denial. He had underestimated Jasmine, and he had underestimated Rasheeda's strength. Both women now had the upper hand in different ways. By the end of the day, legal analysts were speculating how the new evidence would impact the divorce. Some predicted a swift ruling in Rasheeda's favor, especially with proof of hidden assets and infidelity. Others thought Kirk might rush to settle to avoid more public humiliation. Rasheeda didn't release any public statement that day. She went home quietly, surrounded by her closest circle, away from the chaos and the man who had betrayed her so many times. One thing was certain. After Jasmine's revelations, there was no going back. The truth was out. The facade was shattered. Kirk realized this wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of the control he had always tried to maintain over the story. Jasmine had flipped the script, and now the world was watching him unravel in real time. If you thought the drama was over, think again. What's happening between Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk is only getting messier, and the evidence keeps piling up. Will Rasheeda finally cut ties for good, or will she find a way to forgive again? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is one love and hip-hop storyline we all need to watch unfold.